We are giving you tips on what you should focus on now that AI is hitting search marketing hard, and we'll be telling you how you can make the most out of your social with zero-click content. Hello and welcome to the Marketers of the Universe. I'm your host, Hayden Woods-Williams. I'm a digital marketing team lead here at Brew Digital. We are discussing how search is changing with AI and exploring the fundamentals that you need to focus on to get the most out of it in 2025. We're also looking at zero-click content and how it is going to be a massive part of your marketing strategy across SEO, paid, and social in 2025. So get ready. For now, though, let's get on with the podcast. So our first topic today is looking at the evolution of search in 2025. And here to talk to me about that, we have Rich Harper, who is our head of digital marketing services here at Brew Digital. We have Debbie Gacutan-Jardines de Oliveira, who is our senior social media manager. And we also have ChatGPT, who is going to be testing their knowledge alongside our team of experts and adding in that AI expertise as well. So let's start things simple. Kick things off with looking at the last 12 months. How do you think search has changed? And what do you expect to happen in 2025 and beyond? Rich, we start with you.
Hi, Hayden. Good to be back. So what is search in 2025 and how has it evolved? I think the obvious answer is AI. AI has been at the forefront of every trend and every topic of discussion around digital marketing and search in the past 12 to 18 months. But it's not just about AI. I think there's a lot of talk around SEO being dead. It's been talked about for a long time. SEO is not dead. I just want to put that and make that clear now. SEO is changing. Search is changing. Search is becoming multimodal. I think around 90% of people use multiple devices to complete a single task. So people are using different devices for different tasks within that kind of search process. People are using more than just Google. It's not just, they do dominate the search in terms of search engine market share, but they don't necessarily dominate the total search market share when you think of things like Amazon, ChatGPT, TikTok, YouTube. There's so many channels now that are deemed as search channels that Google, it shouldn't be everyone's only go-to when it comes to optimizations.
Thank you, Rich. Debbie, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, we cannot run away from AI. It is here to stay. So definitely AI has impacted, different channels in marketing, and search is one of them. I think that the biggest thing that AI has influenced, in my opinion, is how we search things. I feel that nowadays it's a bit more personalized. It's a bit more conversational. Instead of you saying, "Oh, I just want to Italian restaurant near me," you would now type, "What is the best Italian restaurant near me?" And then it becomes a bit more personalized content that is served to you. So I think that type of conversational thing has been influenced, and it's now almost like a new life for us when we are interacting with search engines.
Do you think that's exactly the same for B2B as well? Obviously, the example you gave there was around searching for a restaurant, but how was that envisioned within the B2B market?
I think what's interesting here, though, and I don't know, Hayden, if what you're asking is right, is like, how has marketers, changed their marketing strategy based on that reality that we live in right now? I think like adoption is very different from one case to the other. I would have to say that with my clients who are very B2B, tech heavy, very jargon word, a lot of their content is still not, I would say, conversational or, authentic voice. They would still lean towards a bit more, thought leadership, a bit more high level type of conversations on their content. And I think that's fine. if that is what they feel their audience is and gravitates towards to. But there are already some works going on of like content that is really being changed to sound more authentic and sound more genuine, not just in text, but also on video. Because when we think about search, it's no longer about text nowadays. It's also your video content and your audio content.
Yeah, it's not even. It is exactly that. It's search is every channel, but and also every input. Like Debbie said, it is text, it is image search, it is video search, it's voice search. And for me, your question around the B2B, how it kind of applies in the B2B space, I think the way people are searching these days, it is asking more questions. So how can you think about the introduction of AI overviews, and people also ask sections on search engines. People are asking questions and search engines are doing their best to provide that answer up front. So brands need to be investing in that long form content and short form content that is answering people's queries. Like Debbie said, far more conversational, and far more people asking search engines, actual questions. And that really kind of also, not just the AI overviews and people also ask, but think about search from a voice perspective. People are using their devices, not just the home devices like your Echoes and stuff like that, but also your phones, your Siris, and people tend to now ask Siri a question, or they ask the Echo, Alexa, they ask it a question. You don't just spout out a keyword. That's the kind of way you've got to be winning, is thinking about those long tail conversational phrases rather than just individual keywords.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting you say that, because one of the things I've seen, and it's a lot that I've seen on LinkedIn around the drop in organic traffic that HubSpot's had, because actually AI is getting so much better at answering the questions. So as businesses, we need to ask, what are the questions we should be answering that AI can't? And before I let either of you answer, I'm actually going to ask the AI a question. Now, AI, don't know how to refer to the AI. How has search changed in the last year, and what can we expect in 2025 and beyond?
So over the past year, search has become smarter, with AI making it more personalized and intuitive. And as we look to 2025, get ready for search to be even more conversational and visual, while privacy takes center stage.
Anything to add on that, team? Anything that's changed your mind that you think you may have missed?
No, I think it's pretty much in line with what I think, which is AI is really going to be all about context. It's not about, not AI, but search is going to be all about context. It's not about just what you look for. It's all about your past searches and who you are. One thing that I wanted to add a while ago, I haven't seen this personally because social media is my forte, but I have read up that one of the things that marketers need to start doing right now is focusing on long tail questions instead of keywords, so that instead of let's put it in our client, what is DevOps? Instead of just doing that as a keyword or a brand phrase that you want to do for search, you want to develop it a bit more. And that has been influenced by the conversational nature that has been happening when we do interact with AI.
Super, thank you. And we're kind of touching on AI already for obvious reasons. Do you think that AI has already transformed the search landscape, and the social media landscape as well, actually? How have you seen that change happen?
Okay, can I answer this? Because I'm super onto like how AI has really reshaped how we go about it on social. I think what's interesting on social media profiles right now is that a lot of what you see on your explore page, on what is fed into you on your feeds, and a big platform that is leading this is actually TikTok, that uses AI heavily on its explore page, is that even before you search what you want to know, it's already provided to you. And that is the goal of AI on these platforms. Like based on your engagement in the past, on your history, what you have been, searching for in the past, that is the point of AI on social, is that the intent. You don't really need to search or browse things because it's already given to you. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen how social media is being transformed. a lot of your feed is really curated for you. I think that ads right now as well on these platforms have been like a massive impact. I think I read up on Guardian, they mentioned that Facebook had, I believe, like 19% increase in sales. And that is with Facebook just changing the algorithm and really bringing in AI enhancements in both content delivery and ad targeting. So I think like that has really shifted how we interact, but also how we search on social.
Do you think there's a risk of it becoming an echo chamber? I mean, we already speak sometimes about some places on social media, and the influence social media has on young people. As B2B marketers, do we have to take that into consideration when we're delivering marketing?
I want to add as well, this applies to search and social around AI, is the rise in, let's call it fake content or fake information. And obviously AI is using social and various platforms and people's websites to gather its information and learn from. Google used Reddit to train their AI overview answers. If the answers in Reddit are incorrect, AI is going to give you incorrect answers, but people will trust the results. So I think we're in a dangerous space now where people are using tools like ChatGPT to create blogs and to create articles and just publish them as they are. And we know from Google, from their algorithm updates in December, that they are penalizing, bad content, duplicated content, AI written content. So I think we are now in a position as marketers where we have to stop being lazy and start really trying to control what goes out, because we are at that kind of forefront of the information that people are going to be digesting. So if the content we're not putting out is not user-centric, is not personalized to the audience, is not factually correct, we're in that kind of dangerous precedence of just creating a world full of knowledge that is going to be incorrect.
That's interesting. And I'm going to take that moment to go and ask AI, how do you think you have impacted the search landscape?
Much more optimistically. AI is like the secret sauce, making it more personalized and efficient. On social media, it's helping us discover content that truly resonates with us. And for marketers, it means better targeting and more meaningful connections with audiences.
Wow. It sounds like some kind of propaganda that's trying to bring us over to the to the AI side. That's really interesting. And, AI has referred to itself there as the secret sauce. And that's really interesting. And one thing that sometimes gets overlooked is, since AI has, become more popular and performed better, we have seen an increase in voice search through smart assistants and devices. Obviously, we had a massive boom in that space 5-6 years ago, maybe even further back. I can't remember, with Alexa and Google Dot and Google Home, things coming out. Do you think people are considering voice search strategies enough at the moment?
No, I think it's still very early in its adoption. I was actually involved in a voice business for the hotel industry about 5 or 6 years ago, looking to replace the telephone in the room down to reception with automated voice control. So putting Google Dots in bedrooms, and you speak to an AI assistant for the hotel, which will replace that kind of front desk. On paper, it was a good concept, but the hotels didn't adopt it. There was concerns around the kind of price of the physical hardware, as well as things like privacy and bits and bobs. So it didn't really fly at that point, but that was 5-6 years ago, and people then were talking about voice search being the major trend at that time, and it's never really taken off. But I observe my kids, they're 12 and 8, and they use voice search all the time on their phones, mainly because they haven't got to that point where they can spell correctly and stuff like that. And actually, for ease of use, they can just tap the microphone and they can speak directly into it. They use the same when they're writing text messages to grandparents and stuff like that. They just use the voice note to record. So I think there will be a shift, a generational shift at some point that is going to happen where voice search becomes the norm. I don't know if we're there yet, but in the next couple of years, I think it's going to dominate the search markets. And it's going to change because we've touched on it a few times, but with voice search and with AI overviews, and people also ask, no one is clicking through to a website. They are discovering the information there and then. So we're going to have to adapt and understand and look at different metrics to measure the success of what we're doing as a market, as marketers.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Before I come to you, Debbie, I'm actually going to ask the AI. What impact do you think the growth of AI-driven voice search has had on marketing strategies?
Voice search is changing the game by pushing us to think about how people naturally speak. While not everybody is on board yet, it's critical for brands to consider voice search, especially for local and conversational queries. It's all about making interactions feel more natural.
That's so interesting, actually, because we've already mentioned being conversational and being authentic. And really, AI is saying that is the way we're going. And interestingly, it kind of rolls into my next question as well, which is for you, Debbie. How do you think the shift towards conversational, the shift towards social media as a search engine has changed things for marketers?
I'm gonna give you a real life example. So back during the holiday season, I went home, and we're gonna be off for dinner, and essentially I was like, okay, I'm gonna go search as a restaurant, and I was with my niece Jen Alpha, who was also searching. I was like, help me search for restaurants, and then I went on Google, and I was like, best restaurants in Manila, and then she went on Instagram, and our use of it was one prompt but was executed very differently. And I think that's how you see search engine on social media right now, which is Instagram is no longer about just sharing your life. It's about a place for you to get tips, travel tips, product reviews, tutorials, and so on. With my niece, who's Gen Alpha, and I think there's also a lot of adaptations from Gen Z and millennials on this. You now look at not just the restaurant itself, you also look at the experience of the people who went there and the aesthetics, and it's a much more personalized learning instead of just like how much this place costs. And I think like that has really changed how we interact. I do think as well that, for marketers, this basically means that we need to start thinking about the content that we put out there is all about how our users search. It's not about just you putting up the information. It's you need to now bring that storytelling across, make it a bit more conversational. You need to start thinking about how you will be discoverable on these feeds, as AI is also influencing these feeds. But also get your basics right, such as your captions, your keywords, your hashtags. I think, Rich and I were discussing whether it is better to embed captions on your video or to use the tools caption feature. And some social media tools actually index your captions that you use on their tools. So I think like these are things that marketers need to start thinking about.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And actually, when you think about that and kind of spinning it back to the conversation side of things, if you look at things from Google, the majority of the time, the people who are ranking in Google tend to be companies, right? Whereas you go to social media, and that's where you see creators, that's where you see real people making these suggestions. Is there something in that kind of trust and authenticity of something coming from a person rather than a brand?
Yeah, 100%. And I think the game is going to be so interesting because I call it the game, but the industry, it's now interesting because as a social media marketer, I'm not thinking about, how is it to be number one on Google search? I'm thinking about how does my content get seen in the right platform in the right moments as well. I don't want to be somebody like who sees like, a trending when somebody's looking for, really insightful or really helpful tips in order for them to use our product or services. So I think like that's how I am seeing things. So yeah.
Debbie kind of said it there. As a social media marketer, she's not necessarily looking about how you can rank position one on Google, but I think brands just need to be paying attention about how they optimize everywhere from an organic perspective. I think organic, whether you see that from a search engine or from social or whatever channel you deem as an organic channel, is still a good quality source of traffic and a good quality source of revenue if you get it right. So get the basics right across platform, across channels, and that's where you'll win.
Super. And then going over to our AI guest, how has the shift towards social media as search engines changed the game for marketers?
So social media has become a major player in the search world. For marketers, this means crafting content that stands out in a sea of visuals and trends, and it's about being where your audience is and speaking to their language in real time.
Maybe a little bit of an empty answer if you ask me. I'm not the biggest fan of that. Maybe that's something that
But I'm curious about the prompt as well, because what's interesting about AI when you do search, it's not about just your question, but also about your context. I just want to comment on what Rich said. I feel like, there's this fear of like AI taking over inauthentic content, fake news, and all of these things. But I think like everything else, like the technology development in our society, it's really good if you use it well. And I think that's a good case in point is AI. If you use it well, you know what it's for, you know what it alleviates you of, then you'll be able to have better answers to your questions. You'll be able to find more insights than the basic hollow thing that AI just said right now.
just to wrap things up, because we're sadly almost out of time, and I want to make sure that we bring this back to something that our audience can take away and start implementing. What new skills do you think marketers need to develop in order to optimize their marketing for this new world of search?
Let's do AI. I'm curious what AI will say.
AI says that marketers need to be a bit like digital chameleons, adapting to AI, voice search, and social media. This means crafting conversational content, understanding AI tools, and mastering platform-specific behaviors. It's all about staying nimble.
Thank you. How do our listeners become nimble digital marketing comedians? Chameleons? Wow.
I mean, okay, AI is right, and I completely agree and super on board that I think this new wave of change that we have right now is really pushing us to understand our platforms better. And I think what this basically means is not just understanding your audience, but understanding the behaviors of your audience and how they look for content, how they use content and so on. I'm going to give you an example. So on TikTok, a video on TikTok or a video that is really curated and beautiful and nice will not fly and perform on TikTok. These beautiful, curated, and nice videos can be used on YouTube. We've seen it with YouTube ads. We've seen it with like vlogs and so on. But the same type of content would not fly on TikTok just because the platform itself of TikTok really, really gravitates towards that type of content that, you just have a moment you want to film yourself. It's like all the trends. It's like funny short content. It's like, it's a bit more authentic than what we see on YouTube. But that's not to say that YouTube is also very insightful and it's really a good platform for you to find tips and tricks and all of these things. So I think that knowledge is important, not just to marketers. I'm going to challenge that, even outside of marketing, designers, developers, and everyone. You need to be able to understand these platforms because you cannot copy paste like one content from one platform to the other.
I will say, in terms of the skill set, there's two things. Be a student of your profession. So digital marketing is always evolving and always changing. So in order to be relevant and understand what is happening, a bit to Debbie's point, be a student, absorb information, go to webinars, read blogs, read books, follow thought leaders, because knowledge is power in this. If you don't have that knowledge, then you're going to get left behind. And second of all, be a good listener. Start to listen to your audience where they are. If they are on these platforms like TikTok, like YouTube, look at the comments, look at the threads. look at the types of content they are engaging with, and listen to that audience to help you shape your own content. I think we need to move away from making assumptions that we know what our audience know best, and move to a more reactive discipline where we are listening to our audience actively and then shaping our content accordingly.
Amazing. Thank you, Rich. I think you've both hit the nail on the head there. I'm going to wrap it up with a thought from myself as well. I think one of the things we need to be doing to understand AI is to be using AI. If you're a marketer, make sure you're using AI on a daily basis, not necessarily to transform your work, but the more you use it, the more you understand it, the more you can adapt to it. And if you're not there using it, then you are falling behind. Amazing. Thank you so much, Debbie and Rich, for your research and time there. I think there's definitely a lot that we can learn from, both from AI and from the experts here at Brew. There's so much changing in search, and I, for one, can't wait to see how it grows and how it changes, and also to see how many years it is until Google falls off their perch. On to our second topic for today's podcast. With me to talk about zero-click content is our social media manager, Selfie Noor. Hi, Selfie.
Hello.
And our paid media manager, Nasya Nasera. Just to kick things off, because I know it is a term that is potentially self-explanatory, but I want to make sure that we just go kind of straight back to basics. What is zero-click content?
Basically, just to kind of, yes, it's kind of in the name, zero click. You don't have to click anything. But to just kind of be more specific, it's essentially now on the social, the way to go is making sure whatever content message that you want to kind of convey is within the post itself. Because traditionally, it doesn't matter like organic or paid, especially in our industry, which is like B2B, we always want to have a landing page, always asking people to like click somewhere to kind of learn more and stuff. But that's just not how it is now with all social media platforms, and including some very professional one like LinkedIn now, because we know now LinkedIn have short form videos and stuff. So essentially, it's a combination of all social media platforms want people to stay within their platforms, pretty much do everything you can do on their platforms, the better for them. And on the other side, you as a company have to kind of capitalize on that, because ultimately, if your content are really good, people engage it a lot, the social media platform algorithm will kind of, in a way, reward you in terms of the pushing it to more people to kind of see it. So yeah, so that's a very kind of top line what it is on zero click, but some suggestions, for example, for people who may not be clear about it, like usually in a B2B situation, people will be like, post about a report and then like, okay, download their report now. But now if you kind of see more companies now, they kind of start doing like LinkedIn document, people can kind of keep sliding for step 1, step 2, step 3, and only towards the end, they say something like, if you want to know more, download it, something like that. So yeah, so that's basically zero click content.
Super. Thank you, Selfie. And Nasha, looking this through a paid media and PPC lens, obviously we're in a world where cost per mil, cost per click, cost per acquisition are all going up across so many different industries. How does zero-click content relate to the paid advertising world?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting topic because, like Selfie said, how people consume content now has definitely changed compared to just 3 to 4 years ago. And it has become more apparent ever since the rise of TikTok. You know, we could think of IG stories or LinkedIn posts that give you all of the content, all of the information upfront. More and more people like me have short attention spans, and people want like quick, easy answers fast. So it's definitely great to see that a lot of platforms, especially within the B2B space, are starting to cater to that. And looking at PPC, we used to be all about driving clicks and landing page traffic, but now it's more about meeting users where they are, and keeping them engaged without forcing them to leave the platform or forcing them to click on the website and download an ebook. So it definitely matters in terms of PPC as well.
I'm going to maybe be a little bit contrary. So one of the things like that we hear quite a lot is, TikTok, that's just for Gen Z. There's going to be things that are just for Gen Alpha. This zero-click content, is that a result of people like of Gen Z forcing us all to listen to shorter 10-second videos on TikTok or using Snapchat or no, ignore Snapchat because that was a thing a while back. But pushing us to listen to shorter form content on things like TikTok? Or is this relevant to everyone, regardless of generations? Do you think everyone's habits are changing?
I'll touch on like the generational side first. Yes, I think I'm not a Gen Z, but I'm kind of like in between Gen Z, millennials kind of age group. But yes, we do grow up with a lot. I can't even remember my life without internet. Like, kind of, when was the last time I never like came across internet in my life? So because of that, that really has shifted. Like Nasha said, short attention span. I feel like by the time in high school, like social media and stuff, videos, memes, like at those time, Vines and stuff, just like short form videos and all, it's already kind of happening. So I do feel, number one, it's a little bit of the generational side effect of it. But also, number two, it is something that even for the older generation, you can't avoid it because now all millennials are in the workforce. More and more Gen Z are in the workforce. I can't remember what's the youngest Gen Z age now, but most of them now are in the workforce. So that's just how things are in the future. And then we did discuss a little bit about AI and stuff. So that's another angle to this story here because now social media in some ways are a lot of things happening, just too many things happening, so that ultimately people, this is where it's not so generational, it's maybe everybody involved, just want a little bit more like authenticity, like quality. So that's where zero click content usually kind of shines because it's usually really give you the value. Doesn't matter, it's a video, infographic, a carousel thing that you can swipe, but usually the best zero click content is usually like people are like, oh, I learned something from it. Oh, I do find it entertaining right away. So I think that's another side of it. And it doesn't really come into a generational thing. It's just a matter of the internet has been very crowded. So now people value some things that a little bit more distinguished because now everybody use AI to write their content and stuff. So sometimes a certain thing that stands out and really relate to what people are searching, what people want to know or interact with. So that's where zero click content just kind of starts to take over. And then of course, social media platform knows if people like this stuff, people stay longer on my platform, we can make more money on people. So, it's just like almost like a domino effect. So it's a multi-angle kind of situation, basically.
Yeah, thank you. Going back to you saying what the youngest member of Gen Z are, it's actually 13 years old. So we've got 10 more years before Generation Alpha starts entering the workforce, which is terrifying. To kind of roll on from there, obviously we've mentioned people's changing habits and how marketers have to react to that. But actually, how are the social media platforms, and I'm going to include Google and search in that as well, how are they encouraging users to stay on platform? So how do you think that impacts how marketers are creating content? Nasha, should we start with you?
In terms of like PPC and paid advertising in general, it's definitely different compared to how we traditionally do things. Traditional KPIs like CTR, they do still matter, but now they're not the only important metric we should test against. Instead, marketers are focusing on metrics like engagement, and these could be things like video views, post interactions, or even form fills right on the platform. To adapt, brands can look into creating, snackable, high-impact content, and this could be in the form of a 30-second video or platform native features like polls or even like Selfie said just now, carousels. Most importantly, we have to shift from hard sells to more storytelling, which we have covered in our previous episodes if you haven't checked that out. Build trusts and relationships instead of pushing tons of users to this to your site. If people click on your site, that just means you are doing things right with your content and see those clicks as a bonus.
Amazing. Thank you. I'm going to bring us into the realm of example. Do you have any examples of successful zero-click content? We'll start initially on social media, but then we'll go over to paid media afterwards. So Selfie.
Some really successful one, Gartner. I've definitely seen some of their posts. They are definitely, I would say, not a new organization. So, so traditionally they've done certain things a certain way. People always have to click certain things to go read out their new research report and stuff. But I do definitely see they started shifting away from it. And I do see that they are trying really well, like how they kind of they really keep it kind of simple. If you ever read any like Gartner report and you know how complicated, like, they're just super lengthy, but the way they really just focus sometimes on just like three things. And then towards the end, they're just going to tell people like, if you want to know more, you can kind of like, check out this, like Nasha said, go to the website. It's on the homepage or whatever, some things like that. So I would say Gartner is definitely on top of my head, but I would say that's more of a simpler approach to zero click. And I guess another example would be, this is kind of like our partner here at Adaptivist Group. It's like Monday.com. I mean, they, I would say, a little bit more millennial, Gen Z style, I would say. They just kind of drop a video and then there's really nothing to it. No click, no nothing. And even recently, they dropped a video with llamas and stuff just to kind of promote. But it really does a great job of kind of make it like funny and stuff with like animals and stuff, which is like, is it really necessary to use animals? But no, but is it fun? Yes. And they use Rihanna song and stuff to just kind of, but in a way, through that simple video, they just kind of show already how their kind of interface looks like, what are some of the key benefits that people use Monday.com. So I would say that's definitely one good example. Just kind of put it out there. And there's not even one link to just kind of like, oh, check out Monday.com demo or anything. They didn't even put it there. So, and then just kind of to add a little bit on the previous question, why I kind of would say these two are good examples. Because at the end of the day, if you're doing marketing, you need to know that not every content serves the same purpose. So for example, in the Monday.com example, that video with all funny llamas and stuff, do they really want to lead through the video? I can confidently say no, but I would definitely say it's a very awareness kind of content that they're trying to do. So some of the things that they probably like measure through it is how many people repost it, how many people kind of watch, and also like, the average watch duration and stuff. So yeah, so I think that's something to consider when you're doing zero click content. What successful is will really depends on what that content is for. So don't just kind of assume, oh, this one has a lot more people repost, what this one doesn't repost, so it's not successful. Like, no. So you have to really be focused. What is that zero click content is for? And then set certain metrics. And then that's how you know which one is successful and which ones are not.
Super, thank you. Yeah, I like that you've mentioned Monday.com actually. I remember seeing one of their posts the other day. I think it started, being a llama isn't all fluff and sunshine. Sometimes you have to work for it. And this looks like it's a script of a story, right? And it goes through to say 8 a.m. to this, 9 a.m. this, 11 a.m. this. That is something that for most people or for most brands, you have to go away. That's an idea. You turn that into a video. But actually, all they've done is write that script in just text. And that shows that sometimes you don't have to go out and create video or create a static image and use graphic design time or anything like that. You can just be creative, stand out. I'm going to roll this over to Nasha now to see if there are any examples of paid advertising campaigns that are really using zero-click content well.
I can't think of any examples from brands specifically, but I could give you an example of strategies that seem to be working for some of the marketers out there. And one cool example is for zero-click content is LinkedIn document ads, where brands can share case studies, guides, or ebooks, basically any valuable long-form content that users can just flip through their feed. It's super engaging and keeps users on the platform. But before you do launch your document ads, be sure to do tons of research on your audience targeting, because the CPC does get really high from my experience. But that's the only downside of it. Another example, which is my favorite, is carousel ads. So you can use carousel ads to tell a story or walk users through a step-by-step process. These are great for showcasing any key data points that you have or highlights without needing a click. And also, let's not forget about poll-based content on LinkedIn. That gets a lot of tons of engagement, and who doesn't like giving their opinions on LinkedIn? I personally like polls as well.
One campaign that really sticks out in my head just around how someone's used zero-click content for paid, and it's more in that kind of traditional advertising space. And I can't remember if it was Funnel or Dream Data, who are also competitors, so look at me getting them confused. They basically ran a collection of ads of people resigning from marketing because they couldn't believe how easy it was to manipulate their data using the tool. And I just thought that was a fun, entertaining way of engaging people who didn't necessarily know the product, but knew the problem of manipulating data. So yeah, thank you both for sharing that. And I'm going to wrap things up initially by asking how marketers can balance their zero-click content with their lead gen content and driving inbound leads. And then we'll finish up with one tip for a listener who wants to go and start implementing zero-click content into their marketing strategies. So to kick things off, how can marketers get that balance? Nasha, we'll start with you and then we'll jump over to Selfie.
That's a tricky question because it's all about giving just enough to spark curiosity within our users, but just holding back enough to make them want more out of your content. And it's exactly like the beginning stages of a relationship. You got to keep a little bit of mystery to make them chase you. But first, tease additional content, share a few key stats, and invite users to download the full report if you see that they are engaged enough. You could also use strong CTAs to create some sense of urgency. Even subtle ones like follow us for more tips like this can do a lot of wonders. My most important tip is don't forget to build your retargeting audience. Even if someone doesn't click, their engagement can fuel retargeting campaigns. But essentially, the trick is making them feel satisfied but curious enough to continue the journey with your brand.
There you go. Thank you, Nasha. I think that's a really important point you finished on there. And while you were talking there, what you were saying sparked a great Valentine's Day campaign for Brew that I thought about, where we'll see dating tips that also work for your marketing strategy. Selfie, make sure you write that down for for us. Now heading over to you, Selfie. How can marketers balance that? And then if you can wrap up with your top tip as well, that'd be amazing.
I think in terms of just kind of balancing it, I think it's a matter of, like I said, you need to kind of understand really what matters to your business. So I think having like a clear objective on why you're doing zero-click content is the number one thing I would say in terms of balancing, like how do you, making sure you give value to your customers, but also you gain something out of it. In terms of tips, I would say number one is kind of like, I guess let's use a relationship example now since Nasha started it. So number one, let's say if you're dating someone. So in this case, of course, if your business is your customer, so it's the first C is your customer. But if you're dating, it's whoever you're interested in. You need to kind of learn about that person. So you can't just assume, if you're on a date, you can't just assume, oh, this person like burger. Like, what if that person just wants some chicken wings? So you have to kind of really know them first. What do they need? And then number two, I would say it's kind of like creativity. And this kind of applies in both companies and dating. So for your companies, in order to stand out, you can just kind of keep repeating the same message. Like we discussed, Nasha mentioned before, like just give a little something. You need a right hook and stuff. So just like when you're dating someone, you kind of need some pickup lines a little bit here and there. Not too much. You need to really, really kind of be creative. Like, like, come on, like, there's nothing wrong with going on a date for like a dinner, but sometimes maybe you could play go-kart, play bowling, movie date, be creative. And then last but not least is not just for relationship, but anything in life is consistency. Because like in dating, you have to be consistent to make it work. But also with zero-click content, you have to be consistent. And consistent here means you can't expect you post one tips and suddenly everybody look at your brand as reliable. Like, no, most of content we see now, businesses have done this really well. It becomes almost a series that they just kind of like tailor it down. So people know, oh, they always post tips on this kind of thing. So you have it to be consistent with that. But also another aspect of consistent is in terms of experimenting. So sometimes maybe your short video doesn't work. Okay, maybe you change the way you start the video. You have to be consistent with experimenting as well because social media kind of changes. So yeah, I would say those are my 3 tips. It's just your customer. You have to put them first, be creative, and then be consistent.
There is one thing I do want to ask really quickly, actually, and this one's for you, Selfie. A lot of companies or marketers in companies who are probably bought into this way of working. But when you pitch that at a CEO or C group suite who just want results, we've been in performance marketing and that being a big kind of topic for such a long time now. Attribution is obviously important and people are always looking to attribute their marketing to results. Do you think it's possible to attribute social media to leads and revenue, or do you think it's a holistic kind of way of building a relationship with your customers? And how does someone sell that to their senior management?
I think I have to kind of answer in like a B2B, B2C kind of situation. I would say in a B2C, it's slightly easier. Very basic example, TikTok now, there's TikTok Shop. Certain video, people see they like it, they can right away click that yellow add to cart button. And, it's quite easy for like this kind of content to really does well in B2C. It's quite easy to kind of track the ROI and stuff as well, because that's just how B2C is, but if we switch on the B2B side, yes, it will get challenging, I would say, to kind of justify doing this. And even within like the stakeholders I'm working right now, we don't really do it all at once. We try first. We have experimented. Like, for example, if you're doing 5 social posts per week, try 2 zero-click first, and then see how it works, tweak it out. And then after that, you just kind of keep tweaking and tweaking to just kind of like make sure you get it right. Because in order to convince, of course, the C-levels and stuff, you have to kind of have a solid numbers of it. So even if you want to say on the B2B, oh, this is to like foster relationship, but you have to quantify the relationship, like is the relationship based on how strong the company's social profile grow or how strong the number of followers grow, so those are the things that will definitely wouldn't bring money, like how many followers, how many engagement. But if you can really show, oh, so for example, from April to June, we really explore zero-click content only. Our social media followers jump by, 80%, our engagement at 90%. So that becomes a number to kind of quantify like, okay, see, yes, all these people don't necessarily buy it, but in a B2B, you need audience, you need to kind of foster them. They're not going to buy right away, but at least they know now you exist and stuff. So I think it's just a matter of translating the non-tangible side of things to make it like tangible. But of course, the tangible numbers kind of differ by certain business. And new businesses may care about followers, but a more established business probably care more. For example, the sentiment, that means like people like our brand more, so there's always a different things that business want. But I would say for social media managers, you just kind of have to understand what the business want and how do you translate it into numbers, because at the end of the day, social media is creative and fun. But if you don't have the numbers, people not going to understand why you do certain things. So yeah, just really, really be smart what numbers matter and how do you translate it.
Amazing. Thank you, Salfi. I kind of put you on the spot with that one, and that was a fantastic answer. So thank you. Anyway, that is all we have time for. Thank you so much for listening. We really hope you found some useful snippets, and there are a few things that you can take away and implement today. We love that you've made it this far through the listen. We love making this content and would really love it if you could share this content with colleagues, enemies, friends, whoever. Thank you also to the Brew Digital team for their research and input into today's sessions. Make sure to check out our past episodes, subscribe on whatever platform you use to listen to your podcasts, and we'll see you on the next one. I've been Hayden, and these are the Marketers of the Universe.
I don't think we'll be inviting the AI chatbot back for other episodes.